Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Or stalked? Always wondering what's around the corner, everything being shrouded in mystery and shadows. The fear that there's always something around the corner, lurking and out to get you. Hopefully not in your real life, but in Gloomwood, that's exactly how you'll feel. Gloomwood is an immersive sim that's been in development for a couple of years, still in its early access phase, but it's quickly becoming a cult classic. If the Steam reviews weren't enough to sell you, just take a look at Reddit or YouTube. You'll quickly find hundreds, if not thousands of people who are loving this game. The game is being developed by Dylan Rogers and David Szymanski, both of which also worked on a game called Dusk. And while Dusk is a very differently paced game to Gloomwood, they both share two things in common. They're both visually similar, reminiscent of the early 2000s PS2 style era of graphics, which is becoming increasingly popular as more and more people try to replicate that retro nostalgic feel. And they were both published by none other than So come with me on a journey as we delve into the curse-ridden city that has more to offer than meets the eye, and into the depths that is Gloomwood.
Not how you treat a dear friend now, is it?
The city of Gloomwood is home to a plethora of different entities, some friendly and some not so. But what you'll come to find is that your friends are few and far between. You'll hear many different voices telling you they want to help you. But do they really? That's for you to deduce. Not only are the things that lurk within the city of Gloomwood out to get you, they're also out after themselves, rarely forming an alliance with each other, and usually ravaging each other at the first chance they get. It's a dark and dreary place, filled with much spite and bloodlust. It's best to watch your back.
Prepare a carriage. They want us to bring him to the city gates.
Ah, good doctor. What an unfortunate predicament you found yourself in. Kidnapped and brought here, of all places. Well, if you listen to me, you may yet survive this night. Here, this ring should help you stay out of the light. You have many enemies here. The darkness will shroud you from them. I'm off. Can't stay here. Look for the old lighthouse on the coast. I've left instructions there. Good luck, Doctor. There's more to this city than you can possibly imagine.
And with that, you're thrown into the depths of the city of Gloomwood. Little explained to you, apart from you have many enemies, and there's much more to the city than you could possibly imagine. Clearly, with this nice kind stranger explaining things to you, there's nothing to fear. Everything's laid out on a map for you. All you have to do is get to the lighthouse, which is somewhere on the Old Coast. The Old Coast? You don't even know where you are. You've just woken up inside the bottom of a pit, being told you're going to be carted off in a carriage to the city, and then someone comes along, opens the gate for you, and tells you got to go and find a lighthouse. Lovely. All things considered, you could be in a worse position. You could be this guy. If you're expecting a hand-holding experience, you're solemnly mistaken. As you traverse through the city, things may seem straightforward, but maybe you'll find there's multiple solutions to a single problem. A multitude of paths leading to the same endpoint. The game doesn't exactly throw you in the deep end though. Despite me saying there's no hand-holding, there are tutorials that explain how the mechanics work and what you need to do. But where you need to go and how you get there is entirely up to you. Let's take a step back and explore one of the most fundamental parts of the game. There aren't many unique mechanics in Gloomwood, so if you've ever played any other similar titles or any first-person shooters, you're likely familiar with most of the controls. Movement is as you would expect with the WASD keys, as well as the mouse, obviously. You can lean round corners using Q and E to get a better advantage and see where your opponents are. This leaning can also be used in conjunction with doors, meaning you can lean up against a door and hear what's happening on the other side, giving you strategic advantage if something lurks on the other side. The inventory within Gloomwood is an organisable inventory. There are many games that use this kind of inventory system, but it's most reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, allowing you to move things around and organise it like a big game of Tetris. Poor inventory management will mean that you have empty spaces within your briefcase, and you won't be able to pick up as many items as you would like. There's also various weapons you can acquire in the game, all of which have bog standard mechanics, like shoot, reload, and how can you forget click, 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 click. The ring that the stranger gives you at the start of the game is a mechanic in and of itself. It allows you to see when you're completely shrouded in the shadow, ranging from lighting up luminescent orange to being completely dark, null and void of light. Now, unless you're some kind of crazy speedrunner, it's highly likely you're going to have to rely on this ring to find your way around and make sure you're not spotted as you maneuver from shadow to shadow. The ring works in conjunction with your ability to sneak, which is done by tapping control. So it's imperative to utilise your ability to sneak around and crouch. That will completely hide you. The surface of the floor you walk on also plays a role within sneaking. If you're on a soft surface like wood, you can usually breeze right past. But if you're on a hard surface like metal, you have to utilise the other sneaking feature, and that's holding shift to slower your movement, making your footsteps silent. With the basics covered, it's about time we move on to the gameplay. Like I mentioned earlier, the game's still in early access, but there's still a whole lot of ground to cover. The starting area of the game is a tutorial area, much like any other game, allowing you to go over the basic mechanics like I've just spoken about, and pick up vital items for your playthrough. After being let out the pit you find yourself in by the nice stranger, you make your way down a hallway, avoiding an enemy in the shadows. A little further along the path, you encounter a prisoner who goes by the name of Edward. He assists you somewhat in telling you where your things are being kept, and if it weren't for him speaking up, you wouldn't even know he was there. He's impossible to see.
Hey, Doc, they put your fancy sword and things in the room back there. They might still be there, if the rats haven't gotten to it. Worse every day.
After speaking to Edward, you come across a note next to a set of buttons.
A few of the lift buttons weren't working right, so I've taken them to my workshop down the hall for fixing. Samuel.
The game has you follow a set path, walking down a hallway and stealing a key off a guard. Upon doing which, you can enter a locked room. Inside, you'll find the power generator for the building you're in, as well as a map of the area and a button that will come in handy much sooner than you might think. And another note on the wall of the power generator.
Hobbs lost the crank to the power generator. Said a spine eel came right up and took it off him. Tried to wrestle it from its jaws. Had wicked teeth. As long as your finger? Sure. Either way, it's coming out of his pay. I sent a request to the metalsmith in the market plaza to make us a new crank in the meantime.
After leaving this section of the room, you come across a gramophone and your cane sword. Two of the most important and significant items within the game. Your cane sword is basically your trusty sidekick. You can't really go anywhere or do anything without it. And the gramophone, which allows you to save your progress. Meaning if you die, you'll go back to that point. Moving on, back into the room where you found the briefcase and spoke to Edward. He lures out the guard that you stole the key from prior, and causes a distraction, allowing you to make a sneak attack on the guard.
What is it this time?
This fish is clearly rotten.
You're lucky I feed you at all. The other guards would sooner dump your lifeless husk into that pit. Don't bother me again.
Good luck, Doc. You're gonna need it.
Following this, Edward gives you a farewell, and you're off on your way. It's now that you can take the button out of your briefcase and put it into the slot in the wall, in order to get the elevator working as it should. At the top of the elevator, you come across another guard, a paper target on the wall, and a glass bottle on a barrel in front of you, with a red X marked on the floor. The game prompts you to hold F on the bottle, rather than tap F. This allows you to hold it out in front of you, as opposed to putting it straight in your inventory. Combining all the elements the game has offered you, you throw the bottle at the target on the wall, alerting the guard, and he runs over to find out what's happened. At which point, you could either walk up behind him and sneak attack him with your cane sword, or simply brush right past. Down the hallway, some more guards chatting.
Seem anxious tonight.
It's the outsider. They don't like his stench.
Turning around from where the guards were and heading back to the boarded doorway you just passed, you find you can break the boards off the door with your cane sword, allowing you to climb the chain. There are two stops along the chain. Firstly, if you head straight to the top, you'll find yourself at the roof area with some more guards chatting away.
Has anyone found the key up to the watchtower yet?
Apparently one of the prisoners escaped and locked himself in there.
How long has he been up there?
A week about. We're making him stay up there and starve to death.
At least he has a good view. What a fool.
Once their conversation is over, you can nab the key that's on the guard facing his back to the wall. Heading back down the chain, you go to the other stop you can make, which is inside an office. There's not much to the office other than a picture, a desk with a note on it, and a safe. As well as a rope hanging from the ceiling. We won't talk about that. The note on the desk reads as follows.
Consider this my last will and my confession. I did everything she asked of me. When she wanted a seat on the Mercantile Council, I delivered. When she wanted some unsavory figure removed and discarded quietly, I provided. Now all hell has broken loose, and I have yokel mercenaries besieging the factory floor. I only have line workers and sailors here, not soldiers. I haven't even fired that damn revolver in my safe. I kept my end of the bargain. Years of empty promises. Was I really this blind all along? Curse you, Sylvia. May this rotten town take you with it.
Any attempts to open the safe will be in vain since you don't know the code, but you notice a switch in between the safe and a doorway. Curiously, you walk over and flip the switch, and the lights go out. When you turn around and look at the picture, you'll see a code is revealed. Entering this into the safe allows it to open. Gaining you your first piece of loot in the game, and your first gun. You walk over from the safe to the door and try the handle, but it doesn't budge, it's locked. So instead you turn around and jump into the room where the guards were talking earlier. You come across a box marked Dr. Thatcher's Tinctures and Elixirs beside a chest. Breaking the box open gives you a syringe. Syringes are this game's answer to a healing item, and they're vital throughout your playthrough. Since your health doesn't regenerate by itself, you're going to have to use one of these at some point, but it's imperative you use them sparingly, as they're few and far between. And they take up 2 slots of your inventory, so if you want to carry any distractions like a glass bottle, which also takes up 2 spaces, you're going to have to plan accordingly. Leaving this room and entering the main fishery area, the tutorial is over, and you're free to explore. While the fishery isn't one of the biggest areas in the game, it is one of the most prominent, having you backtrack all the time. The area is full of enemies, secret locations, and lore-rich items, further expanding on the world of Gloomwood, making it appear as though the world has existed way before you got here. It's worth mentioning that this is one of the easiest areas in the game, unless you're like me, who's inexperienced with immersive sims, and you decide to treat it more like a run and gun in Call of Duty, rather than a sneaking expedition. It's also at this point I'd like to bring up the difficulties for the game, of which it has 4, spanning across Crescent Moon, Half Moon, Full Moon, and Blood Moon, the hardest difficulty. Personally, through my playthrough, I played on Full Moon, but if you're really looking for a challenging experience, I'd recommend playing on Blood Moon. It really makes you think about what you're doing, because the only way you can save the game is with an exclusive item to Blood Moon, and it's the wax cylinder. You still save at the phonographs like in all the other difficulties, but without a wax cylinder in Blood Moon, you won't be able to save the game. So you have to decide whether you want to keep on pushing forward and risk it all, or play it safe and save your game. Like I mentioned earlier, the fishery has some secret areas, but not all of them are as secret as you might think. Some of the areas in the fishery are more of just extra areas, places that you don't necessarily have to go to adventure progress, but maybe you find some useful items, like some more money or some more bullets for your gun. And like I mentioned at the start of the video about the no hand-holding throughout the game, this to me encourages exploration, because there's no path set out in front of you, with directions telling you where to go and what not to do. It's up to you to decide which avenues you explore and which you don't. And it's more than likely that when you pick up keys throughout the game, you'll start to wonder what they unlock, and you'll go exploring anyway trying to find those areas. All that being said, I'm not going to show off all the areas of the game, because I'd much rather you go and get a copy of the game for yourself and see what the world has to offer. Once you've made your way through the fishery, you enter the caves. Entering the caves, you get a completely different feel to the fishery. Everything suddenly becomes closed in and claustrophobic. You feel the need to watch your back at every turn. And at first, it may not appear that haunting, but when you delve deeper and get to the power generator, you quickly realise this place isn't as desolate as it seems. This is actually the shortest area in the game, but when the claustrophobia sets in...
No, wait.
It feels immensely longer than it's supposed to. Making your way down the main cave entrance, you come across an electrified door warning you to stay out and be wary of something. It's unclear what, as the word is obscured by blood, followed by a dismembered arm underneath it. But as you listen closely, you can hear a faint noise coming from behind the door, almost like a barking. The cave appears to be really well lit, with ceiling lights and mushrooms that glow on the floor, so it's not particularly hard to find your way around. Further into the cave, you find another metal door that's locked, with a note attached to it, reading the following.
The dogs are loose again. I certainly know how locks work, and I assume you know how locks work, so my guess is that Hobbs is the one who keeps leaving the kennels unlocked. Not a surprise, really. I closed off the entrance to the kennels and electrified it, because Hobbs was in charge of feeding them this week, so I assume they have not been fed and would be all too happy to gnaw on whatever face pokes into their new little subterranean dog paradise. If you need to get into the kennels, well, first pray. Then you'll have to turn off the generator. I locked the generator room and left the key in the break room down the tunnel. I figure locking it should keep Hobbs from going in and relieving himself in the fuel tank or anything like that.
The note explains the mystery behind the electrified door and confirms your suspicions that there are dogs lurking down there. But with the generator locked behind this door, you're gonna have to go find the key down the hallway. This will be your new mission objective, until further progression. Not too far from the generator door and the note you just read is the little break room mentioned in the note, with the key lying on the table exactly as described. Here, there's also a phonograph, meaning you can save your progress if you wish. Grabbing the key, you decide to head the other way, further into the cave, bringing you to another locked door with yet another note attached.
You apparently cannot summon the modicum of effort required to open this door and haul whatever junk you're carrying through it. But perhaps you might coax that lump of boar fat you call a brain into comprehending that leaving said junk in front of said door blocks it from opening, which means that nobody can get to the main elevator without going through the kennels, where in another wonderful display of door proficiency, some other troglodyte keeps leaving the cages unlocked and allowing the dogs to roam around very free and very hungry. Since you feel comfortable sentencing the rest of us to wander with those dogs, consider this a warning. If this happens again, and if I find out who is responsible, they'll spend a night themselves locked in the kennels. I guarantee it's easier to haul a box through the doorway than it is to hide from a ravenous hound.
This note tells you two things. First of all, your only way to get to the main elevator is going through the kennels and dealing with the dogs. Secondly, someone is sincerely pissed and moulding over someone who's rent-free in their head about blocking the door. Attempting to open the door, you do indeed prove that it is blocked on the other side, if it wasn't already apparent from the note and the little window you can see through beside the door. So this only leaves one path for you to go, and that's back from where you came. At the generator now, you flip the switch, turning it off, and when you turn around, darkness. Your only light source now being the aforementioned mushrooms on the floor that have a slight glow emanating from them. It's after the power gets turned off that the sound design really plays a key role within the caves. You quickly realise there's no noise other than the ambience and your own footsteps, as well as some raindrops falling from the ceiling. It really drives home the feeling that you're alone and there's no one else around. But heading back up to where the electrified door was, you'll quickly begin to feel the opposite, and you'll hear a sudden bang in the distance, followed by some eerie music setting in. A peek around the corner reveals the dog has opened the door, or at least one of them. It's at this point I'd like to show you the current working document for the enemies you found within Gloomwood. So far you've come across the woodsman and the huntsman respectfully, and now whatever this thing is. The dog that opened the door for you. The fish dog. This is the third enemy type you encounter within the game, and they're quite consistent throughout, not appearing through all areas, but appearing often enough. They will attack you on sight. They have an extremely putrid smell about them. To what extent their hybrid form allows them to function is unknown. How much of them is part dog, and how much is part fish? Can they swim? Can they breathe underwater? It's extremely hard to say, but one thing is for certain, if you get in their way, you will be mauled. Similar to faring up against the huntsman and the woodsman earlier, your best course of action with the fish dog is to sneak around them, only attacking if completely necessary, and you have no other resort. So yet again, it's imperative to utilize the shadows and your ring to mask yourself. Upon entering your vicinity, the fish dog that broke out from the door starts to patrol the area, looking for anything to eat. If it happens upon you, let's just say it's not going to be a good ending. You can, however, loop around this fish dog, confusing it and getting behind him. He won't even know you're there as long as you stay quiet, allowing you to get a quick sneak attack off in his back, putting him down for good, meaning you can press on safely, for now. Upon inspecting the fish dog, you're confused. Its hybrid form doesn't make sense, and you can't seem to pull your eyes away from its wide open mouth with huge, mauling teeth on the inside that'll easily rip anything apart. Deciding to play it safe, you move the fish dog's body to the shadows in case anything else comes along looking for it. Moving on to the door that you couldn't get through before, you find a lantern on the other side and decide to take it. This section of the cave's already dark enough, even with the mushrooms lighting the way on the floor, so God knows what it's going to be like when you get further down. Around the corner from this, you find a bunch of kennels left open, with body parts and blood strewn across the floor, along with a note attached to a board with some apples and a lantern underneath it. Maybe this note can give you some more insight into what you're dealing with.
To whomever is on feeding duty, pay attention. The hounds have a particularly keen sense of smell. If you find yourself unable to get one to budge when transferring them to another cage, lure it with an apple or a bit of cheese. Ensure you don't get too close, like the stupid bandicoot you are, however. They can also sniff out meat and will happily take off your arm.
Moving along is not long before you encounter your next fish dog, sniffing around some body parts on the floor, helping himself to a feast. Typically, there's only supposed to be one dog here, but in some rare instances, the game decides to throw all three at you at once, even though they're supposed to be spread out throughout the cave. So, good luck dealing with that. But, when in doubt, whip the revolver out. Moving past this, you come across a door operated by a valve. You open it up and take a peek over the edge, seeing some guards chattering below, going to investigate and see what's happening above. Now, you may remember at the start of the video, I explained that there may be multiple paths all leading to the same endpoint. Well, such is the case for the caves. Opening that door with a valve, you don't have to take that path down. If you decide to backtrack and head down the rocky cliffside towards another fish dog sleeping at the bottom, you can jump in the water and swim up to where you just were. Giving you a different vantage point. This may be strategic in some playthroughs, allowing you to sneak up on the huntsman and woodsman, making for an easier entrance. This is one of the instances where if you get too cocky and forget to save your game, you'll face the consequences. All that progression lost, putting you back to where you were before you saved the game. Now you're gonna have to retrek all that way. This is something the Dark Souls franchise would shamelessly steal, because who doesn't love a good backtrack? Walking 500 miles to get back to where you were. Maybe along the way, you can treat yourself to 500 cigarettes. A commemorative cigarette for each mile of the walk.
I was curious to taste it.
This is a mistake I would make again and again and again.
Motherfucker looked like a Resident Evil 5 campaign extra after we was done with him.
And again. And, well, you get the picture. When you do actually end up getting past all these enemies and saving your progress, you'll come across another note that's attached to the main elevator, notifying you of this.
Remember, if the main generator isn't running, this elevator isn't running either. Try resetting the power before you assume it's broken, and try using your Thoom, or that there are bugs in the control box eating the wires. Easily the strangest maintenance report I have ever received, Hobbs.
Which, you guessed it, means more backtracking, our absolute favourite. Across from the elevator, however, there's a section of the cave boarded up, trying to keep anyone who wants to go in there out, with an explosive sign laying in front of the boards. This isn't the game warning you of explosives on the other side of the wall, it's a hint to use explosives to open the boards. Another way this can be done, however, is just by shooting the boards off, either with a shotgun or a revolver. A shotgun you won't have at this point in the game, so unless you want to get one and come back here and then enter, that's up to you. That being said, the revolver will more than suffice. Making your way now behind the boards, you come across a steep edge and you peek over to see what's down there.
Let's do that again!
No! It appears to be some kind of dig site, but you can't really make anything out from up here. So you make your way over to the mineshaft looking structure and head down using the chains and ropes that are provided. Upon reaching the bottom, you're taken back as the walls seem a lot larger than you expected from when you look down. Walking further in, you see a staircase with a chest and a table opposite. You decide to head over to the opposing side of the staircase, taking a peek inside the chest, but you see nothing of immediate value, some bullets and a health syringe. So instead, you take a glance at the table, which has a skull and a red gem next to it, with a few books, a rope, and a note in the center.
I've found it. After months of the men digging tunnels, I'm staring at what is undoubtedly an entranceway to the Old Kingdom. It is truly a sight to behold. The men are uneasy about it. They have clearly heard the childhood stories and wives' tales. In truth, I felt rather anxious as I took the relief sketches of the lithograph at the head of the ziggurat. However, it is not fear that guides my heart, but excitement. I still have the bloodstone that Waite found in the beach tide pool that started this whole operation. In the morning, I will lay out my plans to breach this edifice and unearth that which has not been seen in millennia.
The note on the table is clearly talking about the doorway atop the staircase behind you. Taking a venture up the staircase, you come upon the door with two red glowing eyes, and you recognize them as the same stone that was on the table that you were just at. Next to the door, however, is a curious but prominent hole in the wall, hexagonal shaped. This may play a part in a bigger story at hand, but I'll come back to that later. That's all there is to be seen in this little area. There's nothing else you can access all the area has to offer as of yet. So you take your leave. Heading back up to the surface, you make your way up to the blocked doorway that you came across earlier. Now on the other side, you can move all the boxes out of the way, allowing you passage through. This opens a shortcut to the gramophone that you can save at, which had you not taken the swimming path into the main elevator room, you would have opened this room a lot earlier, allowing you to backtrack to save your game, and not lose out on all that progress from dying to all those enemies. Worth taking note.
Write that down, write that down!
But more importantly, it gives you a quicker passage to the power generator, allowing you to flip the switch and turn it back on, meaning the elevator downstairs can work. Back at the elevator now, you call it down to you and make your way up.
Thanks for using our elevator, you mongrel dog.
You're greeted by some woodsmen at the top, but they don't immediately notice your arrival, giving you the element of surprise and allowing for you to sneak attack them, which would have been ideal if one of the woodsmen wasn't wearing armor. But one thing I neglected to mention about the woodsmen is that their behavior is erratic and quite stupid at times. So in this case, they set themselves on fire and I didn't have to put any effort into killing them.
Yeah, that's what I would have did. I said earlier, right? So that's the technique.
Now with those two disposed, you can make your way over to the table that they were stood at, where you'll find another note.
Day 1. Arrived on site near the beachhead. Survey team and I mapped out potential deck and chute positions. Day 16. Breached the main atrium after about 2 weeks of digging. The auto elevator company provided the equipment to construct down to at least water level, but going below that will be a challenge. Day 15. Shaft elevator now operational, but finding sufficient power is an obstacle. Bottlenecking the whole system to a single fuel generator is asking for blackouts. Day 28. Blasting shipment arrived from the soot works, about damn time. Day 29. First blackout. 2 miners injured when the shaft elevator dropped. Day 32. Waits' partner came by and told us to cease using explosives. Unbelievable. Day 38. Silas told me today that he keeps hearing whispering in Tunnel 6. I assured him that we're just overworked. Sent him home early. Day 40. We've managed to dog around the aquifer and find dry bedrock again. Day 43. The second elevator shaft has begun construction, leading down to the atrium beneath the aquifer. I requested another power generator to handle the increased and already stressed demand. Day 45. I heard someone call my name while down Tunnel 6 last night. I checked and no one else was on shift at that time. Christ. Day 45. Blackout. The active crew was stranded in the dark for 5 hours. When we reached them, they were inconsolable. Tore their fingertips up real bad trying to scratch out. I've put them all on sick leave. Day 46. Felix and his crew just dug up a human skull. We're not moving a single pebble more until I get some answers.
This note catalogues how the mining operation has been going, and they seem to have found something that they weren't expecting to find. Something out of the ordinary. My guess is probably that it's talking about the entrance to the Old Kingdom that you came across earlier, as it's not exactly a lump of coal in the ground. It's very standoutish. With that note being finished off, that's it. You can leave the caves. Now, taking you onto the coast. In comparison to the caves, the coast is hugely vast. Not only is it a pathway to the next area of the game, it also houses a new environment within it, but I'll get to that later. Doing some searching around and heading down the hillside, you find a cave entrance. Deciding to head down it, you'll find that it brings you out somewhere familiar, back out at the little hut on the hillside within the fishery. This opens up a shortcut back to the fishery in case you need to go back there and get some loot, or you just want to do some more exploring. Heading back out of the cave, you take another right and you come across a little rowboat with a map on it. It's a detailed drawing showing you of a place within the fishery, a cave opening, with a little code scribbled at the top. If you decide to head back to the fishery with this information, you'll remember that you found a cave entrance earlier on in the game, right when you first started playing. A cave entrance with another rowboat inside and a safe that you couldn't open, but now you have the code for. This allows you to get one of the most broken weapons in the game. The Undertaker pistol, or the flare gun. If used correctly, it can get you out of insane situations in a pinch. You can even use it to bypass some parts of the game, but I'll show you that later on. The flare pistol is something that I criminally underused during my playthrough, and it probably would have helped me out a lot if I decided to use it as intended. But instead, I opted simply for the cane sword, the revolver, and the shotgun you get later on. What a silly choice. Now, you'll find the coast is full of so many different paths you can take, it's seriously unreal. Not that kind of unreal, like, you know what I mean. If you head towards the house that's on the coast, you can enter through the window with nothing stopping you and no enemies inside on the ground floor, allowing you to get some quick looting off and to have a read of a note that's on some drawers. Unless you're like me, who decided to lure all the enemies inside the house and try and take them all on, like a one-man army, because that was clever. But as you'll see in this playthrough, that kind of worked to my favour because, well, I mean, this happened. Arguably one of the best clips I've gotten from this game, and I couldn't even replicate it. Unfortunately, during the same playthrough, I decided to go on and die, so I had to do this whole section multiple times over, as has become evident with my lack of saving the game.
Why am I at a hospital?
You ain't from Michigan if you never done this before.
Anyway, after dispatching the enemies, you can read the note I mentioned before.
Something is not right. We were hunting some wild boars earlier, and one of the pigs got caught in the traps. I went up to bag it, and one of the older hunters, Boris, just started going at it with the axe. He wouldn't stop until the meat was ruined, and organs and bones were everywhere. When he turned back, he regained composure and couldn't remember any of it. Worst of all, none of us even did anything. We just watched. I'm going up to the city tomorrow to see if anyone, knows what's going on.
This note has some serious lore implications. It's suggesting that there's something that can take over people, make them do things that they wouldn't normally do or even remember after they've done it. Could this be the work of an extraterrestrial life force? Or maybe some kind of plague? It's hard to say. Maybe we'll get some answers further down the line. After finishing your plundering downstairs, you decide to make your way upstairs after taking one of the keys off the bodies of the huntsmen. Usually upstairs you'd be greeted by a woodsman wearing heavy armour, preventing you from sneak attacking him. Unless of course you get lucky like I did and he gets set on fire like everyone else. There's not much more to be found upstairs other than a few coins and a powder flask horn. This is an item that's useless to you right now, but it comes in handy later. Anyway, making your way around the back, and you head back downstairs. This time not through the house, but rather round the back, allowing you to enter a cave system. It's here you can follow the path round, and trudge through the water, and it'll bring you out at a church. Inside, you'll find nothing of use really, other than some more money, maybe some healing items and some ammo. But you will come across a familiar face. The fish dogs from earlier. And a poor soul that's being hung from the ceiling, with a note on a table in front of him, reading the following.
Interrogation notes. Subject: mole we installed at the fishery a year ago. Goes by Winston. Inquired about Kroop's recent meeting with this Mr. Carrington. Babbled about hidden pay stubs. Nothing of real value. Hot poker to the neck and armpits. Inquired about letters between Krupp and the Countess. Claimed that Krupp handled his private mail at his lockbox at the bank in the market square. Potential. Fed a scrap of rotten fish. Demanded answers about the royal spy. Broke down weeping like a child. The mole has outlived his usefulness. Removed tongue and fed it to the hounds. My suggestion is that we need someone closer to Mr. Krupp. Perhaps his accountant? Signed, Inquisitor Dalen.
This note by Inquisitor Dalen shows that he's a ruthless individual, and he's after answers to something. He's alluring to this character called the Countess. We haven't met her before, but I'm sure we soon will. Heading back out of the church and up the path, you can circle back round to where you started, to where the lodge is, where everybody got set on fire. But if you decide to follow the path that heads away from the lodge and head towards the bridge, you'll come across a fallen over carriage that seems to be ran off the road, with a huntsman and a woodsman stood in front of it talking to each other.
Are you coming to the slaughtered goat?
No. Why? Should I?
The Night Watch said they caught something. They won't say what, just that everybody should come see.
It better be more exciting than that overgrown rabbit they showed last time. A bear hound? What a bunch of morons.
Their conversation allures to something within the slaughtered goat, which you can see literally opposite from you. They mentioned the Night Watch finding something inside, but they're not fully convinced that they actually found anything at all, considering what happened last time. So after dispatching of them, it may be worth checking out, but not before you head to the bridge and see if you can get across. But not really to your surprise, the bridge has been drawn up, meaning you can't get across. Meaning you'll have to go around and see what the slaughtered goat has in store. Unless you decide to use the flare gun and you can just shoot the bridge down. Yeah, you know, just don't go and explore the slaughtered goat, just don't worry about that. But assuming you were like me and you didn't use the flare gun on your playthrough, the bridge will still be drawn up, and you'll have to go around. Making your way back down the hill now, and past the church that you just visited, you can head towards the slaughtered goat. But not before you come across a barn in the woods, which is quite guarded, as there's two enemies in the middle of the forest having a chat, surrounded by bear traps.
She's going to have our heads if we don't find him.
Keep quiet, fool. She has spies everywhere.
And you'll find another enemy chopping away at a carcass in the barn. That conversation we just heard in the woods proves that they're out looking for you now. It's no longer a mystery. They've clearly been tasked with keeping an eye on you and keeping you prisoner, but they failed to do it, so now they're having to pay and looking for you. But they made note of keeping their voice low, in case she hears, because she has spies everywhere. I wonder who it could be! The barn offers no story value, but it does have a place for you to save the game, meaning it's a convenient location. That being said, it's unlikely you're going to spend a large amount of time here, so you decide to head up the hill towards the slaughtered goat. Cool fact about the guy chopping the carcass in the barn, he actually just generates infinite axes. So, if you move him around and he throws his axe at you, he'll just pull another one out of his back pocket. Like, yeah, of course. After dispatching of an enemy on the hill looking over an explosive barrel, you make your way to the peak of the hill. And if you're anything like me, you decide to take the explosive barrel with you and try to set up some kind of elaborate trap. You'll also overhear two of the enemies outside of the tavern discussing something about what's inside.
You first.
Are you joking? Did you see the claws on that thing? I'm not going anywhere near it until the others bring the dynamite.
Maybe the conversation we overheard earlier.
A bear hound? What a bunch of morons.
Isn't myth after all. And something really is lurking in there. That would explain why the doors are boarded up. When you actually take care of all the enemies and head up to the boarded door, you'll see it's got a note attached to the front.
I've never seen men torn apart so fast. Whatever it is they brought back, it's more than any of us bargained for. Do not under any circumstances open this door, unless you're prepared to pay the new doorman with your limbs and entrails and love and affection. I will personally be paying him with dynamite, which I have gone to fetch. Tavern be damned! If you absolutely must reach the city gates before I return, well, we tried our best to contain it on the first floor. I can't promise that the basement is safe, but it's certainly safer than the tavern proper.
After reading the note, there's no more speculation. It's confirmed there's something inside, tearing people apart. A horror. Something so evil that they've gone to get dynamite just to take care of it. They can't take it on themselves, even as a group. But this note also confirms there's no other way to get to the city gates than through the tavern. But they've tried their best to contain whatever this beast is on the first floor, so your chances of survival are... So, making your way round in the basement, you enter the Slaughtered Goat. After doing a little nosying around, you'll come across a generator which you decide to turn off. After doing so, you head back out the room to do some more exploring, leading you to a body that's at the end of the hallway. Making your way over to the bot. What was that? Anyway, just ignoring the blood dripping from the ceiling, you find a button in a room along with some health, and then you look at the body, which was just laying in the hallway. In front of it, there's an interesting looking device with a light bulb on it and a pin. Maybe the note that's next to the body will shed some light onto what this light bulb could be.
It was a bloodbath up there. The abomination broke free of its restraints, and suddenly the jubilations became chaos. The captain held the door open so several brothers could escape, but then locked it and went back up to take on the beast alone. I heard his sword clash against the monster as I leaned against the door. The fool. Now we've barricaded this entrance, but many of us are badly wounded. I managed to grab this bundle of flash bombs just in case the beast does break through. Brother Wayland and the others left from the side entrance to bring back reinforcements with black powder kegs. If we cannot kill this unholy creature, then we shall bring the whole building down on top of it.
From reading this note, whatever is upstairs is a serious force to be reckoned with. It's not something to take lightly. Being described as an unholy creature, only God knows what can be upstairs waiting for you. But you have got a new toy to play with, so, you know, there's always an upside. After doing some more investigating and taking the button back to the elevator near the start of the room, you realise you're going to need the power on, so you flip the generator switch again, allowing you to put the button in the empty socket and make your way upstairs. And if you're me, you somehow thought this axe was going to help you, so you decide to take it upstairs with you. A whole lot of good that's going to do against the unholy creature. Finally arriving upstairs, you peek around the corner and see what's lurking. It's hard to make out from this distance, so you'll need to get up close and take a closer look. But rather than approach it head on, you take a route upstairs, seeing if you can get a vantage over it, and take a look without it noticing you. And there it is. The Goatman. The Goatman is the tankiest enemy in the game, boasting the most health and attack power. You do not want to find yourself stuck up against a wall fighting this thing. If the size of this thing and the fact that the ground shakes and thuds when it walks around wasn't enough to sell you that this is a scary creature, just look at all the weapons lodged in its back. From axes to sickles to swords, it's got everything. But when you piss it off, oh, that's when it gets scary. Dropping down to all fours to chase. Now you will have messed up. I'll show you later how I took care of this thing on my first playthrough. Absolutely bricking it. Not scared of the actual creature, but more scared of the fact it was going to kill me. And I would have to go back and do all that again because you can't save. Back to the matter at hand. There's a lot to explore within the tavern. More than just dead bodies and blood strewn all over. There's actually some serious loot here if you're willing to take the time. But it's kinda hard with the Goatman patrolling the area. If you decide to head back down to the basement using the staircase that's in the tavern and get stuck in between a locked door and the Goatman, this is probably your only way out.
Give me your money.
But even then, he just chases after you, ending in this. What a silly thing to try and do. But at least you know the door's locked now, so you can't go that way. And you'll never guess where the key is. Trying again, and this time you head behind the bar. And you come across a note.
Staff. When my new safe was installed in the corner of my room, the nightstand cabinet that used to occupy that space was moved to the attic. Unfortunately, the top drawer of that cabinet had my spare key for the basement. Does anyone remember where the switch to pull down the attic stairs is? I was told it was near the bottom of a wall support on the second floor, but I can't see anything with how dark it is. I'll need to get my lantern.
This note is clearly indicating that you should go and find this lever to open the attic. But again, as we've already established, I'm quite stupid and I didn't go and do this. I continued to search around the rest of the tavern before I went to go and look for this. However, a few rooms later, you will see this. That's right, finally, a shotgun.
Woo! Yeah, baby!
But it's locked behind glass.
Baby! Woo!
So you're gonna have to find a way to get in. Now, you could break it open with the cane sword. Maybe that's gonna alert a little bit of attention from the Goatman, and I don't think we want that. So instead of cavemaning your way in, it's probably best to go and find where the key is. In the opposite end of the room is the safe mentioned in the note behind the bar, with, you guessed it, yet another note attached to the front.
A shot of whiskey and a mug of whalers. A good combo to put any bad dreams to rest.
This note may seem like complete nonsense upon first reading, but if you actually head back downstairs and look at the menu that's on the front of the bar, you'll see the prices for the drinks listed on the note. Using the prices in the order described on the note, and you're in. Also, cool little detail, I like how the safe is aligned to 666 before opening it. showing that something truly unholy is going off here. It's the little things in life. After finally getting the shotgun, and retracing your notes because you're stupid and you realize there's no way for you to progress, you head up to the attic where there's a little bit more looting to be done. Now, there's an explosive barrel up here, which you could actually use to take out the Goatman. I just decided against it, because I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And you'll see later on that I opted for a much harder strategy to kill him. A little bit further in, and there's a wardrobe with a painting inside that genuinely scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it. The clip you're seeing is from my very first playthrough, and this is my genuine reaction to seeing this painting. It was kind of dumb because I wasn't expecting it. Looking back, quite a cool piece of artwork. I do like it.
Let's see what we've got.
Even further in, our favourite thing, a piece of reading material, next to a valve.
I've been hired to fix this old dump's plumbing system, but half this metalwork is either corroded beyond repair or built so long ago that they don't manufacture the parts anymore. The valve I have here can be used all over the city's sewer system, but it's essentially scrap when it comes to this ancient heap of junk. I might as well go order another beer while I figure this out. Being up here alone gives me the creeps.
This valve will actually come in handy later within the city, but for now it's kind of useless, and it's annoying because it takes up 4 slots in your inventory. That could be used for a slew of more useful items, but it's up to you if you decide to take it or not. It will be beneficial in the long run, but short term it might impede your progress. Now, during my first playthrough, here's how I decided to take care of the Goatman. Gonna leave in this clip completely unedited, so you can see how serious I was taking it. Now, there is actually a strategy that involves trapping the Goatman in the attic, which is really useful, and it means you don't have to waste all your resources killing him. Unless you're strategic in the first place and you take the explosive barrel from the attic and blow him up, but, you know, just lock him up there, you know, and then you can go and explore freely, and you can leave without a scratch. But this is the thing I love about Gloomwood, and it's the thing I keep coming back to. There's more than one answer to a question. It's not straight cut, black and white, yes or no.
Red pill, blue pill, Morpheus, Warrises.
There's multiple ways to solve puzzles, and this means you can take it on your own way. I mean, personally, I think this game does a lot of things right, but this is the one thing it nails: the freedom of choice. All that being said, and the Goatman being taken care of, you're now free to leave the tavern. Leaving the tavern, you'll find yourself in some caves, not too dissimilar from the ones you found yourself in earlier, when you were looking around the church. However, this time, you'll notice that you're on the opposite side of the path, allowing you to get to the other side of the bridge that you couldn't access before. However, as always, there's new obstacles in your way, and you're blocked by a gate. You can neutralize the guard at the base of the gate, but that still doesn't gain you access to the other side. So you're obviously going to have to find another way around and open the gate another way. Heading the opposite way to the gate, you can find it lower the bridge, meaning you can backtrack if you need, saving you from having to travel through the slaughtered goat again. That being done, you make your way up to the hill on the right, with 2 guards standing around a campfire.
Should we go check the old mudhouse?
The path to it has collapsed. No one has been able to make contact. The keeper in months.
They're bickering about the lighthouse, which is exactly where we've been told to go from the start of the game. But they're saying the path to it is broken. Maybe we can maneuver around that. With the huntsman wandering off after the conversation, it allows you to get an easy takedown on the woodsman. Just bear in mind, there's another armoured woodsman stood by another door watching you. His vision may not reach you directly, but if you overstep just a tiny bit, he will notice. And if you're anything like me, this part of the game took you multiple attempts because you get over greedy and tried to kill everything in sight. Not really the way you're supposed to play these kind of games. However, after some trial and error, and scoping out your surroundings, you find a hole in the side of the wall. Allowing you access to the little wooden shack. But there's lots of enemies on the inside, and it's likely you'll get cornered and just die.
This delivery. This delivery. This delivery. This delivery. This delivery.
Subsequently, if you take out the enemies around the campfire, you can jump up onto the roof of the wooden shack and gain access to the top area, rather than going down below. But the enemy up here has a torch, so it's likely that you're going to run into some problems.
Do my eyes deceive me?
The only other way around this is taking a path that may not be obvious at first, meaning you have to drop off the side of the cliff. But taking this leap of faith pays off. You'll find yourself on a path below the shack, but it's littered with bear traps and an enemy that patrols up and down the path, so you'll have to take care of him one way or another. Now, if you're full health, you can go about it like this.
Nothing. Someone up.
But, I mean, there is always the shotgun.
What have I got?
I need more bullets! I need more bullets! I need more bullets! I need more bullets!
Don't stop! Don't stop! Please! I beg you! Gotta reload!
whichever way you choose to go about it, taking this lower path is usually the safest option and the easiest to get to the lighthouse. However, the huntsman and the woodsman we heard talking earlier over the campfire were right. The path to the lighthouse is broken, meaning you'll have to parkour your way up. This is probably why no one else can access it, but it allows you safety from all the enemies trying to get you, since they can't scale it. At the top of the path now, just before you enter the lighthouse, there's a telescope, allowing you to see what's down below and see where you're going next. Before you is clearly the city, the place that the stranger wants you to get to and meet him. Taking a look through the telescope, you can see down below is heavily fortified. They have a cannon sitting out the city gate, waiting for you to come by so they can blow you to pieces. And if you're eagle-eyed enough, you'll notice that there's two paths to take here. Either going through the main city gate, which appears to be closed, or a path down to the right, but we'll touch on those later. After surveying the area, you enter the lighthouse, and approach the table which has a note laid out on it for you.
Doctor, I've left you a message on the phonograph. Please listen to it. I've also prepared the basement area for you. Use it to your liking. See you soon. G.
After reading the note, you decide to use the phonograph.
If you're reading this, that means you made it safely to the lighthouse. Good. My store is in the market district. It's not far from here. Rest if you need to, but don't delay. And whatever you do, don't look in the mirror.
Don't look in the mirror. Sounds awfully suspicious. Now, on my first time playing this, I thought he was telling me not to look in the mirror because my face would become grotesque and mangled by something. But as you'll come to find out when you do take a peek in the mirror, it's much, much different than that. You can have a little explore around the lighthouse, and you can actually nearly reach the top where the bulb is, but you can't access the actual light itself. So with not a whole lot left to look at upstairs, you take a plunge downstairs. The sights downstairs are quite strange. There seems to be an operating table hooked up to an electricity box with an assortment of jars on a shelf adjacent to it. These jars contain what appear to be human hands. But before you can even get a good look at what's in them, you're interrupted. On the other side of the door is the mirror you've been warned not to look into. Being overwhelmed by curiosity, you take a step in.
Hello, Doctor. I had hoped for us to meet at my estate. No matter. I can guarantee your safe arrival. A promise few others here can make. The townsfolk are not fond of outsiders. Come to the market plaza before midnight. I will have one of my trusted servants pick you up by carriage. I'll be waiting.
Finally, you meet the Countess. She seems to be on your side and wanting to help you out, and she has a good way of using her words to make her appear trustworthy. But from what we've learned so far about the Countess, we can take a shot in the dark and guess that her plans are a lot more devious than she lets on. There's certainly some ill intentions, some bad motives, some bad juju, if you will, about what she's offering. But just as quickly as she appeared, she vanishes right before your eyes, the door behind you now open again. As you can probably guess, this won't be the last time we see the Countess. One video game antagonist I draw similarities from when thinking about the Countess is Handsome Jack from the Borderlands series.
I will pay you to kill yourself.
Not for his witty dialogue or the way he speaks about the character.
Hey, how did Freckles suck? How's your day been, buddy? We haven't really talked much since I left you for dead. Hey, you think you'll freeze to death out there? No, probably not. Bandits will get you first. My day? Been pretty good. Just bought a pony made of diamonds. Yeah, because I'm rich. So, you know, that's cool. Goodbye.
But more for the fact that he's always present throughout your journey, popping up at random intervals, always watching you, knowing your every move. And like I just mentioned, this won't be the last time you see the Countess, and you'll understand what I mean when saying she's like Handsome Jack. Anyway, with the Countess put aside, to progress the game and get closer to the city, you need to walk over to a bookshelf that's in the basement part of the lighthouse, and you'll find a switch on the opposite side. Flipping the switch allows the bookcase to slide across, revealing an elevator for you. Taking the elevator down and breaking the boards off the door. I said breaking the boards off the door. I said breaking the boards off the door. Seriously, where do you find these people? You can now progress on towards the city, and into the area you were just overlooking with the telescope. Venturing up the path, you find a huddle of huntsmen and woodsmen.
The outsider is sure to come this way. Make sure to keep the gate closed.
They're 100% confident that you'll be heading their way, so they're heavily fortified and ready to take you on. But, like with all things, how you take them on is dependent on your playstyle and how you want things to play out, always going back to that freedom of choice. Within this area, you can open the gate that you couldn't get through before, allowing you access back through to the bridge and so on. Again, this is just to save you backtracking miles and miles, and to give you easy access to older areas if you need to revisit them. If you head up towards the main city gate, you can overhear the guards having a conversation about the cannon.
We need more gunpowder and cannonballs. Go up to the storage room in the gatehouse and bring them down.
Me? I don't have the captain's key.
Then go get it from his room in the guard tower.
Meh. Sounds like too much work.
You useless worm.
Now you might just brush this off as a petty squabble between two friends. However, this conversation is really important if you want to get through the city gate. To fire the cannon, you're going to need 3 things. A drawstring, some gunpowder, and a cannonball. But as you've probably noticed, the city gate comprises of 2 parts, a metal door and a wooden door. The metal door of course stopping you from blowing the wooden door off with the cannon. That's going to be a problem. Now, if you're anything like me on my first playthrough, I didn't bother going this route, and instead I took the side path down to the right, and ended up in the lower part of the city, rather than through the main gates. It doesn't matter which entrance you take, because they're both going to lead you to the same place in the end, but they do both have unique options. Regardless of which path you take, you can link back to either one once you're in the city, from the lower half to the upper half, and vice versa. If you do decide to go for the lower route, it's as simple as this.
Do my eyes deceive me? Appears to have been nothing.
However, breaking through the main city gate is probably going to be more beneficial.
Life on the open seas.
As not only does it give you a better standing when you enter the city, it also gives you access to a save point straight away, something that taking the lower route doesn't allow for you. Whichever choice you make, you're now in the city. Here's something cool that I really like. If you enter through the lower half, you get a really cool introduction to the new enemy of the area. Something that kind of flies under the radar if you enter through the main gate.
Brothers, don't leave me!
Without formal introduction, you're now up against the Bat Barbers. The Bat Barbers are much like the Huntsman and the Woodsman, where they attack on sight. However, they're a lot swifter, so you'll need to think about how you want to take them out. Your best bet is just using firepower. Your cane sword isn't really cut out for the job, so you're much better off using a gun and having some distance. Unless, of course, the opportunity arises to set them onto the Huntsman and the Woodsman, having them fight each other, leaving you to deal with whoever's left standing. A bit further into the city, you will find where the Bat Barbers originate. How they came to be is unknown, just like how the Huntsman and the Woodsman came to be. However, it must all link back to the Countess. As you diligently maneuver around the docks, there's some easy pickings for you. Plenty of free loot just lying around for you to take. During your looting, you'll come across your first constabulary. It's assumed at one point in time they are in charge of law and order within the city, but whatever's taken over all the inhabitants has also consumed them, but in a different way. They weren't changed, they were just killed, and brutally at that. Was their downfall organised, or did they just happen to get in the way? This particular constabulary has a key to the front of the gun shop, somewhere you can access not too far from here. His body also lay just outside the underport, somewhere we'll explore a bit later on. After moving a bit further in and disposing of another huntsman, something at this point you've become accustomed to. You can gain access to the power room for the lower half of the city. At first, this holds no significance, but later it can be used quite intuitively. You'll notice that the gate to get to the power switch is closed shut, and the valve is missing from the other side. Now, if you'd taken the valve from the slaughtered goat, this is where it's used, gaining you access to the power switch. If you walk around the corner, you'll find a note on the table explaining a few things to you.
To reset the local grid power breaker, please heed the following instructions. 1. Flip the power breaker switch into the off position by pulling it up from the downward position. 2. Ensure that power is no longer flowing to nearby mechanisms. For important lamps, a backup generator will initiate red lighting. Your workstation should be stocked with sufficiently fueled lanterns. 3. After a period of 120 seconds, the power breaker will automatically flip itself back into the downward position and restore power.
The note explains how the power generator works, and you'll get 120 seconds to do whatever you need to do in the dark before the light comes back. Back on your travels, you come across some huntsmen having a serious conversation.
Stay back. There's something lurking down here. It just took Brother Zorin.
It's more than likely that he's warning his friend about the Bat Barbers, and he's currently unaware of what they are, but he knows that it's tearing people apart. Unfortunately for him, we're also taking things out. So, after disposing of him and making your way under the bridge, you get jumped without a moment's notice. Still unsure with how to deal with the Bat Barbers, you reach straight for your revolver, taking him out in 3 shots. As effective as the revolver is, it is quite loud, so it's likely to draw some attention, so best not to stick around. Before long and you find yourself at the entrance to the gun shop that you got the key for earlier. As you would expect, inside you can stock up on guns and ammunition, but you have to be careful about how you do it. It's not readily apparent at first, but there's an alarm inside, which if you're careless, you'll quickly find out the hard way. Before you get a chance to think, enemies will break in from all windows and doors that they can and take you out. So maybe not the best way to go about stocking up on bullets. And again, as we've already established, I'm quite stupid, and I didn't save the game. So, I was put all the way back at the lighthouse. Not great. Once you do manage to get back to the gun shop, this is where turning the power off is really important. It gives you 2 minutes to go in and take everything that you can, without the alarm being sounded. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to take everything in sight all at once. You can be quite clever about it and just open up the cases, meaning you can come back for things later if you need, because there's no chance you're going to be carrying 2 shotguns.
So I was in biology class, and mitosis. Oh my god.
Unless you're planning on going really gun-ho with this game, but that's not really the playstyle you're meant to be going for. You can gain access to the lower level of the gun shop, allowing you to save your progress. If only I'd done that earlier, rather than being greedy. There's a plethora of ways you can get through the city and take out all the enemies. In the heart of the city, you'll see a goat man crucifixed to a wheel being burnt at the stake, surrounded by huntsmen and woodsmen. They must have had the same problem here as in the slaughtered goat. But here, they managed to neutralize the situation before it got out of hand. Real shame that you have to come along and put an end to them all. The city has so much to offer, and it'd be a shame if I spoiled it all for you. So instead, I'll leave the exploring to you. That being said, here's a handful of the noteworthy things that can be found throughout the city. When you finally decide to stop exploring and make your way to the end of the city, you can enter the merchant's shop that's been keeping contact with you throughout the whole game, and he'll finally reveal himself to you.
You looked in the mirror, didn't you? That was the Countess. Everything awful that has happened to this town can be linked back to her and that ghastly high manor she roosts in. Doctor, we must get you into that manor to find and end the source of this madness. Now your first task is collecting the stone seals that will give you passage through the old city gate to the mountains around her manor. Each district contains a seal, a symbol of when the old noble family shared control of the city. In the back room, there's an old map of the city I managed to dig up. That should help, but it's rather outdated, I fear.
This is Grezzo. On the surface, he just appears to be a merchant with some valuable wares for you. But looking a little bit deeper, it's clear he has some inclination as to what's going on around the city. And he wants to help you to help him put an end to it. Interesting that he knows so much, and yet him and the Countess are the only humans that seem to be left alive. Besides you, of course. Everything else is some sort of creature, abomination. Grezzo will in fact let you set up shop in his shop. Not so you can sell items, of course, but so you can rest, keep items in your room, and gear up for your next travel.
Doctor, Feel free to leave behind any belongings in this room. They'll be safe in my possession.
Leaving the room again causes the attic stairs to fall down before you, leading to this confrontation.
So it's that fool merchant who's been leading you astray. You trust that sniveling shopkeep? I had greater expectations from you, child.
After seeing the counters again through this mirror, you can actually go through this mirror. Leading to fast travel in another dimension. This will quickly, easily, and effectively allow you to access older areas of the game. Not only that, but it allows you to gain access to an area that you couldn't get to before in the very first part of the game, in the fishery. As of right now, there's not a whole lot that can be done with the mirror dimension, but it is a cool mechanic, and it's more than likely something that's going to be revisited in future updates. The new area in the fishery you've just unlocked holds no significant value other than a note on the table.
Batty? I'd say mind the stench down here, but seeing as you came from the cannery, this is probably country fresh air in comparison. We don't expect you to be a master woodworker, you're mostly just here to keep the seat warm and maybe slap on a replacement wheel or two until Falmouth gets over his flu. Mind you, this will sound silly, but steer clear of the mirror in the corner. I don't know what the story there is, but I do know that Mr. Croup was in a hurry to get the thing out of his office, and since then some of the boys swear it's haunted, claiming phantom lights and voices and nonsense like that. You know how they get, so take that with a grain of salt.
From this, we can assume that this mirror was used by Mr. Croup to contact the Countess, but for whatever reason he wanted it gone. Maybe because their dealings went south. Once you're done exploring this room and head back to the mirror dimension, there's a location that you can't get to right now, but it does call back to somewhere we were at earlier. This is something I'll touch on later towards the end of the video. Anyway, back in Grezzo's shop now. Heading back downstairs, you can take a look at the map that you mentioned earlier. You can see the map has 6 key areas, with 2 of them being marked off with woodsmen. Within the current playable version of the game, the market and the underport, marked off by the woodsman, are the only playable areas you can access. Now, there's a few reasons why they may be marked off with woodsmen, but my guess is it's to show that the Countess has control of these areas. Without the map having much more to offer, you decide to head back into the front of the shop to see Grezzo once again, and he'll greet you having this to say.
Here, take this key. You'll need it to get into the underport. I've been told a shield is located within the tunnels there. Stay dry, Doctor.
Almost as if he's continuing his conversation with you from earlier, he gives you a key to the underport, informing you that one of the seals are there, so I guess that's where we're headed next. Before leaving, however, you can actually shop with Grezzo, as he has quite a few items to sell to you, being quite useful. One of the items being a monocle, allowing you to zoom in and see things from a distance.
Upgrades, people, upgrades! That's how we make the dough.
And if you're short on cash to buy any of these items, all the loot you've been gathering throughout the game, you can now sell to Grezzo.
Oh, this I like better.
20, 40,000, 3 million, $18, 40 million.
He won't buy just anything though, so you can't sell him your empty glass bottles or cans of beans.
Get your junk off my counter. That's not how you treat a dear friend now, is it?
He will buy your weapons and trinkets, as well as valuable gemstones. And if you really wanted, you can sell him your cane sword, but that leaves you at a huge disadvantage, since there's no way to get another one in the entire game. All that being said and done, it's off to the underport. Getting to the underport is fairly straightforward, as we saw the entrance to it earlier when we were in the lower half of the city, in the dock area. And after opening a gate with a plague symbol strapped to the front, and walking down a flight of stairs, you're now in the underport. Throughout the Underport, you'll find everything you've become accustomed to during your game. The huntsmen, the woodsmen, the bat barbers, the fish dogs, and something new. Something that uses the shadows as its guides, but we're not going to meet them just yet. There's plenty of exploring to be done first. Not too dissimilar from the city, the Underport is full of new areas to explore and loot to pick up, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I showed you every nook and cranny that there is to explore. Getting through the Underport to the deep areas requires solving a few easy puzzles. What makes them challenging is the major game mechanic you've been victim to this whole time: sneaking. If you're no good at stealth and taking out enemies, you're gonna have a hard time navigating through the Underport. Eventually, once you've figured out where to go and taken care of any loose ends, you'll find yourself in this scenario. A new friend coming to say hi, but you can't see them. Not yet anyway. Further on still, and you'll find yourself in the main area of the Underport. The warehouse. The warehouse is crawling with huntsmen and woodsmen, guarding something, but it's not going to be straightforward for you to find out what.
Stop barking at us.
It must have been reprogrammed. The constables have these watchdogs all over the upper areas of the city. Whoever owned this warehouse was some big shot.
Probably has a stash around here too. We should search that back office.
Whoever owned this warehouse was some big shot.
Throughout the warehouse and a couple other buildings, you'll find these dog heads hanging from the ceiling. Mechanical in design. Their purpose is to survey the area and call out anything that they see that isn't supposed to be there. Now, there's a couple ways you can get around these. You could find a way on top of them and flip a switch that powers them, turning them off permanently. Or just run straight through them, all launch code-like, and go and tank every enemy.
You like cereal?
Ooh, cereal fanatic.
What's your favorite cereal?
Right now, I'd have to choose the Fruit Loops.
Ooh, love me a good Fruit Loop. What's your favorite flavor?
What?
Further into the mansion, you come across an iron door with a note slid from underneath.
Ha! I hear you fools out there. You think this electronically powered ironclad security door is going to bend to mere gunpowder? If you want in, you'll have to try harder than that. Here, I'll even sweeten the deal. My safe code is 115. You get me that seal, and I will forgive this pathetic transgression and give you its contents. Will that get some smarts going in those thick skulls of yours?
Whoever's on the other side of this door wants the same thing that we're after: the seal. His motives and intentions are unclear, but maybe it's best not to let it fall into his hands. After all, being so selfish to lock yourself behind iron doors and calling everyone around you an idiot doesn't really give off good vibes. On my first time coming across this door, I thought the only way to open it was by doing this. Straight up blowing the door off its hinges. However, it doesn't work.
You think this electronically powered ironclad security door is going to bend to mere gunpowder?
What you instead need to do is take a trip down to the sewage area and flip some switches. Causing them to spawn. It's now you're introduced to the Crowmen, the final enemy you can come across in Gloomwood, and the most fierce at that. If you thought the Goatmen or the Bat Barbers were bad, I personally think the Crowmen are worse. Everything about them is creepy. Their stature, their lore, their aura, everything's off about them. They're so mangled and disfigured, but still have enough class to wear a fedora. I think it's obvious where they spend their time. There's 3 of them down in the sewers that you need to take care of before you can progress. Granted, you could sneak and try to work around them, but it's likely not going to work. The Crowmen are very alert, and they'll notice any slight movements. Further on still, and you can pretend you're Mason from Black Ops 1.
This son of a bitch ain't fighting no more.
No one fights alone. I will work my way around.
Alright, but move quietly.
Before reaching a pit with a note.
The pigs have quarantined off the pit. We all know why. Those creatures have a nest down there. I've seen it. We shouldn't bother with no barricades. I say we just dump as much dynamite and gunpowder as possible and blow them all to Kingdom Come. It's the only way to be sure.
You can't access the pit below, as it's been barricaded up, and by the sounds of it, for good reason. It sounds like it's crawling with those crowmen, so even wanting to go down there would be a death sentence. After this, you can make your way to the final major building within the underport. The Lampfire Electric Company. It's in here you'll need to disable the power, allowing you access to that iron door you were at earlier, within the warehouse. But the Electric Company building is crawling with enemies, so navigating it is going to be a task in and of itself. Finally reaching the lowest level of this building, you can access all the power switches, and you'll come across a note that's attached to the subterranean flow complex switch.
Note, as the constabulary has quarantined off the undercity tunnels, the power to that section has been shut off to conserve resources. In the event that they wish to access that area again, ask them whether they desire power to be reactivated. Without power enabled, several of the powered floodgates are inaccessible, and most of the running lights are disabled, making it considerably more challenging to navigate the darkness. With power enabled, the area will be easier to traverse, but several floodgates may trigger audible alarms when opening.
Oh yeah, I should also mention that you'll have to navigate this area on pipes, because the water's electrified, meaning if you step in it, you'll take instant damage. So have fun with some risky parkour. Back up to the ground level of the building, and the note wasn't lying. It's pitch black up here, making it hard for you to see, but it also means that any enemies you left also can't really see either, so it can work to your advantage. Taking your leave from the Lampfire building, you head back to the warehouse, to the iron door that you couldn't get through before, knowing that's where you have to go in order to progress. On the other side now, you come across a desk with, you guessed it, a note on top.
You can't get good hired help anymore. I've been trying to retrieve that damned guild seal from the tunnels for months now. A group of mountain mercenaries, 2 accomplished treasure hunters, and an exhibition shooter all could not dislodge that prize from the Undercity's talons. I can't very well go down there myself. I am a businessman, not some rogue spoiling for a fight. Perhaps the Order of Huntsmen has enough mastheads to take on such a perilous dive. I would just need to entice them with the right strategy.
The note left by whoever was in this office shows that he's scheming to try and get the seal. For what purpose is still unknown, but he sent multiple people after it, and none have returned successful. Multiple skillful people, I might add. So he's resorted to hiring the huntsmen, adding that their stupidity might be the key. Whoever was here isn't here anymore, leaving the office empty. Meaning if you want, you can open his safe from the note that we read earlier, noting the code as 115. 115? That's, whoa.
Yep, guess I'm Oogaloo!
Anyway, inside the safe, there's a key and a gold pocket watch that you can sell to Grezzo if you so wish. That's about all the looting there is to be done in this office. Just across from the safe, you take a second look at the desk from the other side now, noticing a button underneath, and you give it a click, and then this happens. The fire being extinguished reveals a hidden path, a secret back room. Enveloped by curiosity, you head down the staircase, and before you can go any further, you've reached the end of the current version of the game. Gloomwood is a game that, despite being in early access, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm excited for the future of it, looking forward to wherever it takes us next. There's so many unanswered questions, so many different theories you could have about the game, and I just loved every moment of it. It's so refreshing to play a game like this in a market that's so oversaturated with online multiplayer and battle passes. It feels like taking a step into the past and exploring something that hasn't been touched in a long time. All the developers that have their games published by New Blood know exactly what they're doing. They know who their audience is and what they're trying to achieve, and it's fantastic to see this caliber of game being made in this day and age. Now, I know this is only my 3rd video, and it took me way longer to make than I'd like to admit. I intended for it to come out a lot earlier than it actually did, but it's kind of fitting that it released just in time for Halloween, so in a way it kind of worked out. It turned out to be much larger of a project than I had anticipated, and I've enjoyed every second of making it, I really have. For future videos, I'm gonna stick for shorter formats and probably work on something like this on the side. All that being said though, I would like to thank you for watching the video if you've made it this far. Like, it truly means a lot to me. This is just something I do as a hobby on the side, and it helps me break the monotonous cycle of going to work, coming home, going to sleep, and then going to work again. The goal ultimately is to make this full-time, and I really want to put content out there for you guys to enjoy. That's my ultimate goal. So every like, every comment, even every dislike, every little bit of engagement means a lot. I know I said dislikes as well, but it means that people are seeing it. The content's getting out there, It's being pushed by the algorithm. That means something. But please do leave comments and let me know what you thought of the video. If you've played Gloomwood and what you thought of it. Any critiques you have on my editing style and the way I talk. Anything. It means the world. That's about all I have to say. I'm just going to leave you with a bunch of blooper reels from the footage I caught while playing the game. And things that couldn't really make the cut of the video, but they're funny to watch. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.